And it is Wednesday, and here we are with another edition of Buc What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Super Heavyweight on Twitter. If you follow me, I'll follow you back. And it's the season. This is like the holiday season for the NFL, where we have the is tamper free. I guess you can tamper all. I guess there's no tampering right now. So here we are, and we're at the starting point of the off season. What I would consider the starting point of the off season, where teams are finding the players that they want that will fit for what they're trying to do. Fans are stressed out because they don't know, are these moves going to work or not. And so here we are, and we're gonna talk a little bit about that. But tonight, I'm very, very fortunate to have two guys on who really have a great show. And Ren, I'm going to start with you. Ren, you've been on many times, and I just wanted to welcome you on the show, and then we'll pass it along here and make sure that I get everybody introduced here. So, Ren, go ahead and tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
Sure. I just want to start off by saying, yeah, it's Christmas time for NFL fans. It's let's see what Santa Claus and for our team, it's Jason Light's going to bring us down the chimney, and we're off and running. Gene alluded to the show. It's the PewterCast. Brent and I run it. Brent's the founder. I just sort of co-host with him. He does all the legwork, and I just sort of show up and talk. So it's easy for me. But the best way to reach me through the interweb is on Twitter. At Rendaxt, REN_DAXT, and I'm always down to talk Buccaneers football.
Gene, that's going to be the end of the show because that phrase means the show's over. No. Okay.
Oh, are you going to jump in there, or are you going to?
Yeah. Hey, guys. I'm Brent. I am the other co-host of the PewterCast, as Ren said. You can check us out over there. We're on all the major podcasting platforms. You can find the show at the PewterCast on Facebook, Twitter, all the different social medias out there. And if you want to get in touch with me personally, it's at Brent Allen Live across all the different platforms as well.
All right, that's what I'm talking about. Well, guys, I'm glad to have you on here again, folks. If you've never listened to PewterCast, please get out there and check it out. I love the content. I actually put a link to some of their other podcasts on the actual Buc What You Heard link when I put it up for YouTube. So yeah, make sure you go out there and check these guys out. They have really great content, and it's something a lot of guys that I truly respect. And guys, here we are, day one, and what are your thoughts? I want to get your thoughts, because I know a lot of people right now are jumping out the window. They don't feel like the Bucs are doing anything to improve that dismal 5-win season from 2017. So, Ren, I'm going to start with you, and I just want to get your thoughts on where the Bucs are right now.
The Bucs are good. As fans, we get sort of married to these names we hear early on about who we need as a team. But as the tampering period started, the official tampering period started Monday, we started to see the players that we thought would possibly have a chance to land in our team go to other teams. But the contracts that these guys got were outrageous. I mean, I know McKinnon was linked to the Bucs, and everyone sort of thought that was their A1 free agency pick to help out the running game, but there was no way I would have paid him what he got paid. There's this sort of false narrative about how much money we have left over. Signing these three guys today, which I'm sure we'll get into in a little bit, it knocks our salary cap down to about $30 million this year. Now I'm going to double check this number real quick, and the Bucs are going to spend about $8.6 million for the draft for their rookies. So now you're looking around 22, a little less than 22, and the word is on the hill. That's one Buc place to me, that the Bucs are looking to extend Quan and Alley and possibly Donovan. Well, $22 million. What do you think they're going to get? Like, they're only going to get if they get 10 each, that leaves $2 million. That's all that's left. So even though the cap is very healthy for the Bucs as far as dead money and bad contracts, I think Jason Light's being very wise in picking the people that he has so far. It looks like early on, obviously, that they're focusing heavily on picking up the run game. The guy's name's slipping me right now from the Ravens that everyone's crazy about. The center,
Jensen.
Yeah. Now, if I'm sure everyone's sort of done the math, if we get Jensen starts at center, then you can move Allie to guard, and then J.R. Sweezy has like a $7 million hit with only 1.8 cap space. There's another 5.3 that could possibly show up. So they're moving, they're doing their stuff. Right before we went on, there was a report that Alex Okafor is actually coming to One Buck Thursday. So Jason Knight's doing his due diligence, but I should circle back to what I really like is he's not overpaying anybody. He's getting guys to fit their system for what we need and desperately need, and so I think it's working out. I'm just glad it started.
Yeah, what scares me a little bit is the fact that if Jason Light was just like reckless with the money, you could possibly see Quan Alexander on a Saints uniform or an Atlanta Falcons uniform. He's trying to, what he's doing is locking up all these guys that are quality players for this team, and that's what he needs to do. And for so long, we had a general manager that was missing on all these picks, missing on all these free agents. So we didn't really, as a fan base, we never got to see this where we had to lock up a bunch of players. As opposed to maybe one or two.
Right. Haven't seen it since the old, Super Bowl days.
Yeah, absolutely. Brent, you want to jump in there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting because, Ren basically said everything that I've been thinking, and Ren and I actually haven't had a chance to talk about this yet. So this is the first time hearing his thoughts on it.
This is cool because I got this before your show started, right?
Right. I mean, and I mean, Gene, you and I were talking a little bit before the show, and that's exactly what we were talking about. If you take what they're going to earmark for our own guys, and then take out what they've already paid out already, there's really not a lot of money left. There's maybe enough money for one big signing, not two. So, the two big names out there right now, obviously, are Jensen and then Matthew. How do you say his name?
Tyrann Mathieu.
Matthew, yeah, is those two guys. And I just don't think we're going to be able to get both. It's going to be one or the other. Unless Jason pulls some magic out there, and he might, and he's got a way to do it. Him and Mike Greenberg, pretty good team. I see in the chat room somebody's hollering at EJ Gaines, and I know EJ, he's been connected to the Bucs pretty heavily as well. So, a lot of people are screaming and pointing fingers at Jason for not doing anything. I think he is doing something, and it's I get the frustration, I really do, but I like what Ren said. He's not out there overpaying for these guys. He's not reaching for these guys, which, there's another team out there right now that looks like they're winning free agency right now, but my God, it looks like they're overpaying for some of these guys, and they're headed by a former Buccaneer. So I don't want to speak evil against them.
Yeah. And, think about this. I mean, as far as the long game goes, some of these teams may be in salary cap hell by the time everything is all said and done with. So, just, stay in the course and, getting some of these players signed. I know a lot of people aren't going to like hearing this, but I guess I can't be mad at the fan base because the Buccaneers underachieved last year as a team. Yep. From top to bottom, coaches to ball boys, whatever, they underachieved. They didn't do anything that, they were projected to do with the level of talent that they had. And I can't be mad at fans for being skeptical. Well, why is he making this move? Why isn't he getting this guy? Instead of, just kind of taking a step back and looking at everything and saying, well, let's see what this team does in camp. Let's start with the draft. Let's see who they draft. Let's see how that all shakes out. There may be an undrafted free agent that can come in and steal a position. We don't know what's going to happen from this point all the way to September 9th, first game of the season. So, again, there's a lot of time in this off season for different things to happen.
Yeah, and you know the thing too, and as far as it goes with all these free agent guys, you know, last year I dare say we all drank the Kool-Aid. You know, with the free agents, with the drafts, with the guys that came on through camp, and I'll just dare say we all drink that Kool-Aid. I might be a little gun shy now with all of this, and kind of the position the stance I'm taking on this is I'm just going to wait and see. I'm going to wait and see what happens in the season. You know, we're going to have to get to week 6 or 7 before we really know. I mean, so we got Bo Allen now. Great. Cool. We got this guy, Unrein.
Mitch
Unrein.
That
guy. Sure. Okay, fine. You know, the kicker, Catanzaro. Great. You know what I'm going to know if we got a good kicker or not? When he kicks the damn ball through the uprights consistently.
There you go.
Know? I mean, it's I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, this guy all of a sudden automatically means we're good, or this guy's trash and isn't really a good signing at all. I'm just going to reserve judgment on that, because we could wind up with another Swaggy Baker on our hands, or
let's hope not.
Maybe we got a new Cam Braid or Adam Humphries, just in that, you know, it's an unknown talent that all of a sudden we pulled out of somewhere. So, you know, I'm in a wait and mode see with as far as judging.
You know, and me and you are on the same page. That's kind of where I'm at. Basically, all this stuff is on paper. And when you look at the Browns, you look at what the Browns have done. That's a team that when you look at them on paper, they just, I mean, you got Tyrod Taylor, Carlos Hyde, Duke Johnson, Josh Gordon, Jarvis Landry, Corey Coleman, and David Njoku. Okay. It looks good on paper, but until the season starts, and you know how tough the season can be, anything can happen. You still have to go out and play those games. That's a good example of, you know, what I mean when I say that, you know, it's on paper. Because when you looked at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year, with the addition of Swaggy Baker, with the addition of Deshaun Jackson, with the addition of TJ Ward, I mean, just in the way everything was going, not to mention having the show, the HBO show on Hard Knocks. Yeah, Hard Knocks was here. It was just crazy. And when you go to the camp and you saw the hype and all this other stuff, I mean, yeah, you couldn't help but get caught up in all that. But at the end of the day, it was just on paper. And when it got out and started playing these games, when the rubber hit the road, a different story. So all I'm saying is, for me, from my aspect, I'm just going to sit back and see what happens, because, you know, I'm expecting big things. I've seen all the doom and gloom scenarios, and I'm just like, you know what? What about the Bucs? Why can't the Bucs turn this around? I mean, when you look at that team top to bottom, the majority of that team is the same team that had the winning season in 2016. Am I right or wrong on that?
Yeah, you're right. You know, with some additions that we thought were really going to help.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a good draft.
Yeah, and again, players that I didn't see coming, like Beckwith, Evans. I didn't expect these guys to be contributors for this team on defense. I didn't see it. I didn't see that coming. So there's a lot of different things that you know, you just kind of have to wait and see what happens. And like you said, my goal is week 6. That's where I'm at. That's when I'll know, okay, they had a successful offseason if they're able to get this team and they're winning games. And here we are, week 6, and we're in a good place. I mean, then you know, okay, we had a good offseason.
Yeah, you know, that's sort of what I feel I've been preaching on Twitter. You know, I've gotten a lot of DMs of people asking me, "What do you think about this?" and "What do you think about that?" And you know, but I've also gotten a lot of DMs on Twitter about like, "Hey, like, Buck fans are crazy right now," and you know, and I just sort of reply like, "Well, that's the gig right now.
Yeah.
Like, this is the story. What you're gonna have to do. You have 2 choices. You can either join in with them, fight against him. So I guess it's more than 2. What I've been doing, I've been trying to be tongue in cheek and be levity, or stay off Twitter, because that is what's going to happen. I mean, we remember, like, even before Monday, before that, when Peters got traded, Jason Light, what is he doing? He needs to be fired. Then Quinn got traded. What is he doing? He needs to be fired. Then Bennett got traded. What is Jason Light doing? He needs to be fired. And and these people are really angry. So, but it's passion. I like it. I love it. This is a fan base that this is us. This is our Buck family. But you're going back to Brent said and sort of capping off what you talked about as well. I think the more experienced Buck fan, I will say, and it's not a knock against your Buck fandom, is taking this wait and see mode, like seeing how these guys pan out, seeing how they fit in. But I think we should talk about how we think they are going to fit in and give some measurables to people. And I mean, that's what this show's for. Everyone's, in the chat room, because we want to talk free agents, who we got, what do you think, and who's still out there that we're going to go get. But yeah, I'm with you guys. I will not be when I wake up tomorrow, my final grade for the Bucs free agency season will not be cast.
Exactly. You kind of have to wait until the season starts to see what you've got. So what I want to do, I want to start with Bo Allen. It looks like Bo Allen got 3 years, $15 million. Is that right, Ren? I know you have the stats up on that.
Yep, that is correct. Averaging $5 million a year. There have been some particulars out on Twitter, but as far as SPO Track, which we've decided to call it tonight, the website, it is none of the particulars have been put up, so we're not really sure how it breaks down. But yeah, so it's 3 years, $15 million.
All right. So how does a Bo Allen fit into this Tampa Bay Buccaneers defensive line? And just compared to what we saw in 2017, how does he boost this defensive line?
Brent? Me? Want me to go?
Yeah, either one, either guy. I'm sorry. I mean, sorry about the silence, but yeah, either guy. That's how this show goes. You got to just elbow your way and get into the middle and just say what you got to say.
Sure, I'll start. He has it. When you look at his stats, there's not a big flash of production. This is not the Calais Campbell of this off season for sure. But for what he is, I think the best way for sort of me to explain it to people out there watching this and in the chat room, and how I view this guy, is that he is what they hoped Chris Baker was gonna be. And they got him for a little cheaper than they got Baker last year. $1 million, about 500,000 less. A big body guy. This guy's 320 plus. That's gonna get in there, and he's a run stuffer. He's a guy that hopefully we can stick next to McCoy. That's going to take more than two hands to get a hold of. The Bucs rush defense was bad last year.
22nd.
Yeah, it wasn't good. Definitely below average. And I will maintain that the reason it was only 22nd is because teams didn't have to, run against us as much as they wanted to. If we had a better pass defense that could shut down the run, I think shut down the pass. I think teams would have run more, and that would have dropped even further. But when you're having success throwing and running the ball, with the league the way and the rules are set up, teams tend to throw a little more. But he gets the quarterback. I think he gets gift sacks. He's had like 2 in his whole career, so I think those are more of like where the quarterback runs up and just sort of falls into his lap. Doesn't get a lot of tackles. Sort of averages to Gerald McCoy. When you look at Gerald McCoy's tackle stats at the end of the year, you're like, really? He only had 38 tackles? That's not a lot. But for a defensive tackle, that's sort of in the ballpark. He's that type of guy that's going to eat some hands and get some things free, but mostly he's going to be the anchor, and backs are going to have to run around him because he's not moving.
And that's what we didn't have. That's what the Bucs did not have last year. I mean, there were running backs that didn't get 100 yards, but they were getting yards in chunks. And I mean, when you run the ball up the middle and you get a 30-yard gain, 20-yard gain, that's like a pass, basically. That's like passing the ball, but you're running the ball. And that was embarrassing. I mean, you look at Adrian Peterson, who is to me, in my opinion, he's a third string running back. That's what he was in New Orleans. He wasn't. He's the only reason he wasn't in Arizona is because everybody else was hurt. But this guy ends up with rushing for like 134 yards on the Bucs. That's the kind of things that we saw last year, and I think that fans kind of missed that. The run, the offensive, the teams that these opposing offenses were killing us with the run, just killing the Bucs with the run. And it was they didn't, and like you said, they didn't have to run the ball anymore. It had gotten to a point where they didn't need to do it. So the thing is, you're trying to fix, little portions of this. And I've been preaching this, since the beginning of the offseason. The Bucs have just not paid attention to the defensive line. This goes all the way back to 2003. All the way from 2003 to the present. They have not correctly addressed the defensive line. They've gotten players in. They've thrown some free agents at the defensive line. They've whiffed on more draft picks than, when you consider defensive end, defensive tackle, along the defensive line, the Bucs have only had 18 draft picks going all the way back to 2003. Okay. And we are not even talking about all the free agents that they whiffed on. There's a reason that this defensive line is in the state that it's in, is because the Bucs haven't taken care of that. Now, what you've seen is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking care of the offense, your quarterback, your tight ends, some players on the offensive line, and the wide receiver core that they have. I would, as it starts to evolve, I'm going to tell you that's going to be a dangerous core once, everything gets kind of settled in my opinion. And again, they haven't addressed the defensive side of the ball, which they really need to be doing right now. And as you said, and as we've been saying, all I can do is wait and see what happens towards the, week 6 to see if what they've done throughout the season, from free agency to the draft to undrafted free agents to camp to preseason, all the way to the regular season. Let's see what happens before we pass judgment, because you know what? We don't know. This team is fluid. As Michael Pless likes to say, the roster is fluid. We don't know what that roster is going to look like until day one. And even then, it may change.
Right. Well, that's why at the end of camp, at the PewterCast anyway, we don't call it the final 53. It's the initial 53. It's the first one. It's not the final one by any stretch of the imagination. But it's interesting because I'm sitting over here thinking, because I didn't know where we placed it in terms of the league as far as the run stop last year in defense. I didn't know that it was all the way down at 22. In fact, I was kind of sitting here going, man, I thought I remember thinking that we were okay at stopping the run last year. It was the pass rush. The pass rush is so trash. But I guess when your pass rush is at 31st in the league or whatever it is, 22nd looks pretty damn good. But 22nd is still trash. Okay. So, it makes sense. The thing that gets me about this Bo Allen thing is people are giving Light and company a hard time about signing him because, he only got 2.5 sacks. And this Unright guy too. We're not bringing him in as a pass. Like, he's not coming in as a pass guy. He's coming in for those run things, right? So it would make sense. It seems like he's going to fit in. Let's just make sure that we fit him in the right spot.
Yeah, there you go.
And let's not judge him by something he's not coming in to do. And Ren, we talked about it on our show quite a bit with Swaggy Baker. They didn't use him on passing situations. They tried using him in runs. That's part of why he didn't get so many sacks last year. Now there's other reasons why he's not here, and I'm fine with, but we've got a guy that, let's just say it right now, this guy's not going to be a sack guy. So don't hold up his sack number at the end of the year and try to judge if whether or not Bo Allen was a good signing.
Agreed.
Yeah, there you go. Again, that could be what you need. You need players that are consistent. The one thing that I noticed, and I don't know about you guys, the one thing that I noticed about the Bucs this year was they weren't aggressive on the line. They just, I don't know if they weren't aggressive. I saw a lot of times that they were ending up on their asses, where offensive linemen were just handling these guys, and there was no penetration. And again, that goes back to depth. that goes back to addressing the defensive line. It just hasn't been done. What it looks like to me, and maybe you guys can correct me on this, it looks like Dirk Cutter expected Jacquez Smith and Noah Spence to be his edge rushers. Yep. And he expected those guys to last all the way through the season. Yep. And early on, you saw this was going to be a long season because both of those guys were gone.
Yeah. And that's something that we talked about on our show quite a bit, was the idea of not depending on guys who are just coming off of an injury 100% for a position, and that's, I think, let's chalk that up to lesson learned. I don't want to bring in a guy who we're worrying about, are they coming off of an injury, like bringing in Spence, right? So he's a guy who's coming back off of injury. Great. Right. Whoever the other person is, let's make sure that they were healthy last year. That's,
Absolutely. A lot of pieces that we haven't talked about. Stevie T, we don't know how Stevie T, if he's going to fit in or where he's going to fit in. Noah Spence is a guy. I mean, we're seeing the videos of him working out. We don't know how he's going to fit in all this. And again, we haven't even gotten through free agency to get to the draft to figure out, what other parts of this team are going to be addressed. So there's just a long way to go. And, that's going to be the theme of the podcast, is we've got a long way to go before we get there. And, I feel bad that people are upset, but they, again, everybody has every right to be pissed off at this team for the 5-win season. I get that. And that's why you won't hear me say anything negative towards anybody who feels like this team isn't going to do anything. I get it, because, that totally this team underachieved. But I really believe that, what they're doing right now, they're solidifying some things. You won't see it right now. You won't see it in the stat book. You're going to see a lot of intangible things with this team. And that's kind of what, you're seeing right now. I mean, you look at the signings they have. You sign Ryan Fitzpatrick. You bring in, you sign Cameron Brate. You sign Mike Evans. These are huge. Brent Grimes. You bring Brent Grimes back. I mean, these are important moves that the general manager is making. And I realize that a lot of people aren't liking the moves. They're not sexy. But again, we haven't seen everything that this team is going to do.
Right. Yeah. And I just want to real quick jump back to the defensive line, before maybe we move on. I'm not sure.
Okay. Go for it. Go for it.
But you talked about how, they look like they were getting pushed back or knocked on their butts or off their feet. I'm still in the camp that had a lot to do with coaching. When Jay Hayes got here, I contacted, some Cincy fans on Twitter, very reliable source. But they weren't sad to see him go after 11 years there. They didn't feel like he developed their younger players. They had some studs there like Geno Atkins and others. But the guys that, sort of the Will Golstons or the Chris Bakers or the Noah Spence, these are guys that the Cincinnati fans felt like he didn't groom and make any better. I think it's another big reason why Buckner's here is because he does do that, has proven to do that with the Cardinals. I think at the beginning of the year, the Bucs line was a mess. Jay Hayes, it has been confirmed that Jay Hayes, Mike Smith would call the defense, but Jay Hayes would call the defensive line calls. Lots of stunts early, lots of, Texas and twists and things. And the back half wasn't good enough to hold the receiver for the guys to get to the ball. So,
I have to ask about this. Is this something normal to see a defensive coordinator pass off those responsibilities? That's major. I mean, that's the engine that makes the car run right there, is the defensive line. And is it something that's normal to see a defensive coordinator pass on those responsibilities like that?
You know what? I don't know. I haven't sort of been this deep into Buccaneer football to be able to remember if Monty did it or, if Schiano let his defensive line guy do it, and we can go down the line. But I also think that they weren't on the same page, and I feel that from some of the comments you heard during the season, even from Gerald McCoy, comments like, "Hey, I'm just a good soldier. I'm doing what he's told. I'm doing what I'm doing what I told." Where I feel like these players felt like they weren't being put in the best position to win each play. And the end of the day, I just don't think they like the way we're being coached by Jay Hayes, and that's why he's gone, and that's why Buckner's here. So I think that's also almost if I'm Jason Light and I'm thinking like Buckner might be a free agent. Remember last year we're like Mike Smith, the best free agent we picked up that's not a free agent because we all thought he was going to go somewhere and we all wanted him back. This Buckner hire might be sort of a kickstart to this defensive line, and that's why they're not going out and grabbing, the I know there's no Calais Campbell, but there is a DD from Dallas with a second round tenure on him. Like you go grab him, I believe it's Lawrence. They're not going to these huge splash guys because they think they're close. They like their talent on the defensive line. They just think that a change can be made, and it has been made. And I look for a different attitude, sort of rolling back to what you said, Gene. I really think there's going to be a different attitude along that Bucs defensive line, the defense as a whole. I think there's going to be a lot more dog and accountability, hopefully, this year with the Bucs defense.
Yeah. And bouncing off that, I think you're going to see a particular reemergence this year from Robert Ayers because we've got him back for another year. I think this is the last year of his contract. And I think Will Golston's going to have a bounce back year as well. They often talk about, when somebody gets paid, that next year tends to be a down year. Will Golston signed his contract last offseason, and certainly he had a down year this past year. I'm with you, Ren. I think that Buckner is he's going to go in there and he's going to bring whatever dog is in Robert Ayers. You always talk about how he just was constantly pissed off. Like he stayed like that. It seemed like it, but I expect to see that back, and I expect to see a reemergence of Will Golston. So now all of a sudden we're talking about we got a Noah Spence coming back off injury, which looks amazing, looks better this year than he did last year. You got a Robert Ayers, you got a Gerald McCoy, you got Will Golston, Stevie T, who was injured all last year. Now you're adding this Bruce Allen guy. We got Unrein coming in, and who knows who we're going to get in the draft. You're and maybe even Clint McDonald, potentially. So, that's I don't want to say that our defensive line is stacked and going to be set, but if you can infuse that attitude that Ren was talking about,
and think about this, guys. And think about this, guys. There were a bunch of times that if the defense had just gotten that stop, just gotten them off the field.
Oh, they couldn't get off third down to save their life.
Exactly.
Could not do it.
And that's those are little things like that. If you can change that, you can get them off the field, get Jameis Winston and that offense on the field. That is the Buccaneers' strength. It feels so weird for me to say that the strength of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is on offense.
Right?
It's never been like
when has that ever happened in the history?
It has never happened. I mean, I'm trying to go all the way back to 79, and I'm telling you, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have never been that offensive monster that you think of. But just that is where the strength is. And if the Bucs can get a running back, a legit running back, or they can get some semblance of a running game and get over 800 yards for the season, you're looking at a different team. The complexion of the offense is going to be totally different.
I've thrown this hook out a couple times to some guests, we had on our show. I did it I know I did it to Mark Cook, editor-in-chief and writer for the Pewter Report, and I can't remember the other person too. I want to say Greg Allman, but maybe not. What I said was, is Peyton Barber's running style good enough to make this Buccaneers offense hum? I know we're getting a little bit off track, but it sort of falls into the theory, which is like, get me 3 yards, don't lose me 2. Mm-hmm. And that's what Peyton Barber does. He gets you the yards that are there, and then he falls forward. I mean, when you can equate it to when Jameis came back, or you can equate it to Peyton Barber being in the backfield. But when those two got together, the offense looked a lot better, and it seemed to mesh a little more. It seemed to be a little more potent. I know it didn't equate to wins, a lot of them, but I feel that that you don't really need in this offense. You don't need that Barkley. It'd be nice, You don't need that first round, top 15 back. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't throw one away, but I just think Peyton Barber did a good job. I'm sort of off track. I think Peyton Barber did a good job, and that mentality of getting what's there is good enough to make this offense hum.
Yeah, and just looking at what the New Orleans Saints did with their two-headed monster at running back, that I would take half of that. I mean, just somebody. I would love you know what? If I could have a Christmas present right now, it'd be 1,000-yard rusher this season coming up. That would be the perfect Christmas present for me. Is the Bucs producing a 1,000-yard rusher? I would love that. And again, somebody had mentioned, I think Amazement 717 had mentioned the play action, the running game. I mean, the passing game is predicated on the running game. And that's what we saw Jameis Winston at his best, when he's got a legit running game and he can do that play action because he sells it so well.
And that's Dirk Cutter's offense as well. It's a vertical route system, and if the play action is working, that goes a long way in helping getting Jameis protected and moving the ball, moving the chains. It all goes together. Obviously, I mean, no brainstorm. we didn't crack the code there, but
Exactly.
I'll tell you guys, I've thought about this off season, and I'm all in on this. And this is my Madden head coach coming in here. If we wind up without a running game this year, what I want to see them do this coming year, Jameis has all these passing yards and everything. We've got this great receiving unit between the tight ends and the wide receivers. Let's just ditch the running game altogether. Pass every single play. The other team knows what we're doing. That's fine. Make them beat us. Make them beat Jameis. Just do it. Just commit to it and go for it. That's my playing a video game.
There you go. And let's be like the Steelers. Let's be like the Steelers and go for two every. If you fire the kicker and just go for two
just never kick the ball.
Every touchdown.
Just every time we'll go for it.
Never punt. Always go for two.
Yep. Exactly.
There you go, man.
No huddle the entire game. Let's just go.
I feel like we've gone off the rails a bit.
Yeah, it happens. It happens here. That's just how things go. That's
how we have 3-hour shows, Ren.
and kind of getting back to some of these free agents, I was looking at Keith Tandy. Does anybody know what his contract was? I see they brought him back, and
it was 2 years. I haven't seen any specifics on it, but I know it was a 2-year deal. I've read most of the articles trying to see what the number was, but it's a 2-year deal. And I'm sure it's like a 1 year, and then next year he gets out with it's like a prove it. We can probably get out of it from next year. And that's me guessing. All I know is
what do you guys think of that move? I mean, here's another guy. He was pretty quiet last year. And
couldn't get in the game. Okay, sorry to cut you off, but I'll go ahead and roll with it. I jokingly put a tweet out because as soon as the Bucs announced they signed Keith Tandy, not Te'o. God, I can't say his name either. Who's the guy from Arizona?
Tyrann Mathieu.
Matthew.
Honey Badger. This ain't Honey Badger. We know what you're talking about.
I can remember that. I made a joke about, there was like, he's Honey Badger's released, and above it I put, oh, hey, Keith, we have some bad news. Or like, hey, did you sign the contract yet? Or like a gif of Jason Light like running down the hall, like, did he sign it yet? Look, we all like Tandy for what he did at the end of 2 years ago. He got in there. He balled. He won games for us, won multiple games for us, you can argue, with his interceptions. But my argument has always been Mike Smith is his 4th defensive coordinator, and he's never won a starting job yet. So I like him as a backup. I'm glad he's here. I think he's a great player. I think he's always ready to – great player. I like him as a Buccaneer. I think he's always ready to go when his number's called. But there's got to be something there that we're all missing – because he can't get on the field. He just can't.
You make a valid point. And to me, and you listen to some of my other shows, I've always said, why isn't Keith Tandy getting playing time? What's going on? And these guys, that's their livelihood. These coaches, that's what they do. So there's got to be something, like you said, that we're missing. I'm not sure why he's not getting on the field. Maybe there's, I don't know if it's practice. I'm not sure what it is. And they continually bring players in that end up playing before he does.
Yeah. So, I mean, I like the signing. I do. I'm sure it's depth. He knows the system. He's all those things that you can say about a player doesn't blow your skirt up teeth candy is. Yeah. But I'm glad he's on the team.
Yeah. Would he be considered a journeyman?
No, he's never played for anybody else.
There you go. I'm just asking. I've been trying to get that word. I've been trying to fit that word in the show. I haven't been able to, so I thought I'd throw that out there anyway. Another guy that I kind of want to go back to Ryan Fitzpatrick. I know a lot of people are pissed off that the Bucs re-signed Ryan Fitzpatrick. I, for one, I'm real happy with having him here. What he was able to do, he did what he was supposed to do when Jameis went down with the injury. And, that to me is very important, that kind of football IQ that he has. How do you guys feel about this signing here, as opposed to trying to find somebody in the draft or, find somebody that's a little bit more sexy than a Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Yeah. Ryan Fitzpatrick is one of those guys, and this is not going to carry a whole lot of weight with a whole lot of people, but it's my own personal opinion. What I like most about Ryan Fitzpatrick is not what we saw out of those 3 games. Actually, it's a lot of what we saw out of those 3 games, but it's what we see him doing with Jameis the rest of the time.
Intangibles.
It's what he's able to come in and bring Jameis. And, Jameis is he's definitely not a rookie anymore. Jameis has some experience under his belt, which is good. But to have a guy who has that much more, he's kind of that, dare I use the word sage, a guy who's been around, who can help him a little bit, help him see some things that maybe he's not, to where, Jameis coming in as a rookie and his number one backup was Mike Glennon, who barely ever saw the field. And then, we're looking at Ryan Griffin and Ren, you and I both really liked Griffin quite a bit. Barring the injury, we thought he should have stayed. But, I will forever remember being at Raymond James Stadium, and I forget which game it was in, but Jameis goes down and Ryan Fitzpatrick comes out, and there was just this, it was
Arizona
just this
Cardinals
peaceful, easy feeling. No, this was in Raymond James, because I was there, like physically in the stadium. It was just this peaceful, easy feeling came out when Ryan Fitzpatrick was on the field, that you felt like everything was going to be okay. And I couldn't explain it. It was just this air. It was this weird thing. And then, to hear the players and the coaches talking about it later, of just saying Ryan Fitzpatrick puts everybody at ease, and so it's whatever he is bringing that has to do with that is helping Jameis grow and mature. And one of the things we saw about Jameis when he came back from injury, of getting a chance to step back and watch Ryan Fitzpatrick and take the break and get healthy and all that kind of stuff, I feel like Jameis Winston came back a different, better player after his injury than he was any time before his injury.
He was calmer, in my opinion, and maybe I'm wrong, he was calmer.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could see it in his pocket presence. You could just see it on the sidelines. He, in the beginning, Jameis Winston, when he gets hyped up, it takes him like 2 quarters to calm down before he can get into the game. And that's something he's consistently done. And what I've seen from him when he came back from that injury, as you mentioned, he was a different player. He was calmer in the pocket. He was all about business when he went out there and, he played. He just looked like a different player. And, that's a great assessment that you brought up.
Yeah. So I like that. I like that part of coming back with Ryan Fitzpatrick. And hey, listen, he went 2-1 as a starter, nearly came back. I think it was during that Cardinals game. Nearly brought us back. Didn't quite get us there. And again, you can even argue there, if the defense could have held what they needed to hold up, the offense put up what they needed to do. Offense did their part to come back and win that game. So, I like the idea of Fitzpatrick coming back for another year.
I do too. I mean, he's proven what he can do. And I've heard a lot of people talk about Mike Glennon, and early on, I was like, I wanted to see Mike Glennon compete for the starting job. I felt like, if that's the guy that Schiano wanted, compete for that job, and you earn your position. And when he had a chance with Lovie Smith, he had a chance to be the starting quarterback, and he couldn't do it. It would just you could tell just how he was playing that he wasn't that guy. So after that, I was like, okay, I'm good with that. And then having him as a backup, again, he's not a long-term solution. And we saw that even more in Chicago when he was the starter. He was the guy, and they ended up replacing him with Mitch Trubisky. And we saw how that went from there. And obviously, the Arizona Cardinals have not watched. Do they own all 22, or can somebody get? I don't know.
What did they give him to come over? I want to.
What was it, like 8 million?
I don't know. I could look it up for you.
Yeah, look that up and let me know. But I think
he's still getting paid anything from the Bears contracts. I mean, because
he got all his guaranteed money.
Okay.
Yeah, he's done. So again, that was easy for them to walk away from him. That the Mike Glennon experiment.
2 years, $8 million with the Cardinals.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So when hopefully their starting quarterback doesn't break, and then he has to come in. I mean, it could just be a bad situation. Yeah. I just hope that doesn't happen. But anyway, on to some of the other. Let's see. It looks like Chandler Cantazaro is the kicker. 3 years, $9.75 million. What do you think about that move? I mean, the Bucs need somebody that can get some touchbacks. I mean, I was happy with Murray. Murray was doing what Murray does, and he was way better than what we had with the other two kickers, Folk and missed the other guy. I can't even think of the name. The second rounder.
I don't remember.
Aguayo. Thank you. There you go. There you go. All right. So again, do you see this as an upgrade, or is this a lateral move?
I'll go ahead and take that one. But first, I want to start off by saying when his beard was full, there's no way you can say that Ryan Fitzpatrick is not a sexy pick. So I just want to start with that. And I agree, and I agree with all you guys about what you said about the calming influence on Jameis. So I'm right in line with you 100%. I didn't know much about this kid when we signed him earlier tonight. So I went and looked up some of his stats. In 2014, he was just a tick under 88%. Then he went just a tick over 90%. 2016, I'm talking about field goal percentages, everybody.
Okay.
In 2016, he hit 75% and basically got ran out of town from Arizona, got picked up by the Jets, and went 25 for 30 and made all his made all his PATs with an 83%. So, and we were talking a little bit beforehand about his leg, and he seemed to have very nice touchback numbers. And some of backtrack real quick. In 2017, last year with the Jets, he was also 2 for 2 over 50. And I believe he has a 57-yarder and a 60-yarder on his resume somewhere in these 4 years. Mm-hmm. So do I think it's an upgrade? Yeah. Do I know anything about him? Absolutely not. But I will say, and this is always a positive, when you punch someone's name into Google, if like the second thing under stats is wife, that's always nice to have on your team.
There you go. You can't, that I love that philosophy. I may have to add that on my Twitter.
I mean, here's the thing. I was a fan of Pat Murray, and he's still out there as a free agent. I would love to see Pat Murray back. I see in the chat a lot of people saying, Pat Murray doesn't have the leg to get us where we need to go. I am still very suspect about an injury that Murray was playing with. Because he seemed to be doing okay up until that Atlanta game. And then he just lost some strength in that leg. So, I want to know what's going on there. I want to see more of that. I would love to see some sort of a legit competition happen there. But, again, this is one of those we can look back at history. That's fine. I mean, I seem to remember Nick Folk had a fairly decent history. It wasn't bad. I'm going to reserve judgment for this until we see him in game situation. You know, if we're losing games because we can't hit a damn field goal, then I'm going to have a problem with this pick, with this signing.
New England Patriot.
Yeah. If we're going to, you know, if we're trotting him out on the field and it's fairly consistent and, you know, I'm going to be good. I'm going to be fine. So I got to wait till the season before I really judge this one.
Yeah. Again, I think that was the big knock on him. And I think that's why they didn't bring him back. I would love to see competition. I think that's what's most important to me. We saw that with Brian Anger, where he had competition and he won out that competition and he's maintained that job since then. I think there's just a lot of players. There's a lot of positions on this team where there needs to be competition. And to me, the kicker is one of those positions. I mean, the more pressure you have, the better kicker you have, you know? So you can't go wrong when you have things like that going on.
At the very least, I would like to see, you know, undrafted free agent, a UDFA college kid come in, maybe two, at least the early part of OTAs and training camp. And for I think this guy's gonna have to fall on his face for him not to get the job because of the guaranteed money. That may happen, so you never know. But at the very least, I would like to see another leg or two in camp, just sort of take the wear and tear off the guy.
Yeah.
But I'm with you on competition. But as you know, as we alluded to the very beginning of part of the show, as the salary cap starts to dwindle, the Bucs don't have this like $2 million to throw at somebody, you know, like they did Nick Folk last year. Hey, you know, or I think it was like 2.5. It's like, hey, come here and see if you win the competition. But the Bucs still had to pay him $2.5 million if he lost.
Yeah, my liver still hates Folk. So just so you know.
So, you know, as this cap starts to shrink and, you know, we start to drop down, like we're not even I don't think we're in the top 20 anymore as far as cap space as it starts to dwindle down. You know, I think this competition for the kicker is sort of falling off the checklist of things that I'd like. I mean, I'm with you. Perfect world. I'd love to see it. I just don't know if it's going to happen this year.
We can all attest to how important it is to have a solid kicker.
Yeah.
I mean, we look at the beginning of 2017. There were games that the Bucs should have won that were hampered because of inconsistent kicking. Mm-hmm. It was a killer. It was almost as bad as the run defense, if not worse, you know, at times where you've got a guy that can come in 30 yards, kick the ball. That you only have one job as a kicker. Go out there and make that kick. And you had two kickers that couldn't do it in preseason. You broke it down to one. You had Nick Folk, who won out over Aguayo. He was cut. We saw that on Hard Knocks. And then, you know, here he is, regular season against the New England Patriots. And, you know, he's got several chances to put this game away and, you know, just couldn't do it. That was a hamstring for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, was the kicking game early on in 2017. And I think that's a lot of what put the Bucs in a hole as well, is just not having a consistent kicker.
And you could take that back to 2016. You know, we went 9-7, but you know, there were at least 2 games I remember that got left on the field due to kicks off Aguayo's foot, maybe more. You know, we could have been in the playoffs in 2016 had it not been for a kicker and other things. Right. Yeah, I'm not going to just lay it all on the feet of the kicker, but it certainly is a part of it. You know, that's a part you need to have it shored up, and you can't be losing games because of your kicker.
Yeah. And guys, I want to, you know, the one guy that I haven't mentioned as far as free agency goes that we really need to talk about, I've saved the best for last, Mike Evans.
Okay.
Mike Evans.
Trash.
Yeah, let's get him out of here. They fire light, get him out of here. I don't know why they kept that guy. But seriously, Mike Evans, that was an excellent move. Only because it didn't drag into the season, number one. Mm-hmm. We didn't have to wait for another wide receiver to get a contract to get an idea of what Mike Evans was gonna command. But it all worked out perfectly, and he was happy to sign here. He has a good working relationship with Jameis Winston. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better scenario to bring in a top 5 wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I was pushing to extend him last year because I thought you could have given him a ton of upfront money last year to sort of offset what was coming down the line, which, we keep talking about the Quans and the Jameses and the Alleys and the Donhams that need to get signed. So, yeah, for me, 1 year too late, but I understand the Bucs thinking. I think it was the right thinking. And Mike was solid by the team. He had a $13 million cap hit this year, signed a new contract, and it only added another $5 million onto it, leaving room for us to sign these guys we've been talking about, and other players are going to come up and sign their rookies, and sign Quan and sign Alley. So it seems to be the perfect deal. It's all worked out. Mike seems to be happy here, loves Jameis. They're good friends. The area loves him. It's just one of those picks that worked out. And dare I say, I'm going to throw this out here, so kill me or not. If Mike Evans plays out this contract, 2024, obviously he's going to hold all the records. He has a chance of holding all the receiving records at the end of this year. Most of them at the end of this year, he will have touchdowns and total receptions. Probably not. It'll be close. But he could eventually replace Derek Brooks as like Mr. Buccaneer.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. The person that I was thinking about
wait a minute. Ren, the only way that happens is if in the next 5 years the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win a Super Bowl. That's the only way that happens. So I like where you're going, but he's not going to replace him as Mr. Buccaneer unless there's also a Super Bowl with that. I like your thinking, though.
I can argue that. If he does it statistically and, they consistently get into the playoffs, maybe make it to the Super Bowl, don't win one. I can argue that, but let's shelve that. That was just, hey, this is what I think. Let's just shelve that. That's not an argument for tonight. That's like, hey, we'll put a pin in that and revisit that in 3 years.
And guys, we've heard all the doom and gloom scenarios from the Saints game all the way up to the present. I have to ask you guys, why not the Bucs? Why not the Bucs turning this around? There's so much parity in the NFL. Case in point, the Philadelphia Eagles. Nobody even picked the Philadelphia Eagles to be in the playoffs this year. And they go in and they turn things around and they win. The little tweaks that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have made, bringing in a defensive line coach like a Brenson Buckner, who could potentially be a defensive coordinator within the next 2-3 years. I mean, that's realistically possible. And just what he's capable of doing. You listen to players, Tyrann Mathieu, Frosty Rucker, players like Calais Campbell. Different players have been nothing but positive about this guy. And it's very possible that he can elevate his game to where he is a defensive coordinator somewhere and just not a defensive line coach. So as we're looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers overall, you've got players coming back from injury. You've got replacement players. Why is it not possible for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to turn around a 5-win season and add some wins to that and turn this into a winning season in 2018? I mean, we've heard all the scenarios about, why they can't win. Why not how they can win? I mean, I think it's definitely possible. You have a healthy Jameis Winston, 100% healthy. We don't know what's going to happen at running back, but it is possible that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can be a winning team. They can put a winning product on the field in 2018.
I could sum that up for you easy. Offensively, we had, I'll make sure I get this right. I might be off by 1 or 2, but offensively, the Buccaneers were 8th in the league in getting in the red zone and something like 22nd, 25th and converting that to touchdowns. Bring that up. Defensively, we talked about it earlier. Get the hell off the field on 3rd down. And if you get the hell off the field third down, nothing else really matters. If you get off the field third down, you are stopping the run. If you're getting off the field in third down, you are stopping the pass. You are getting sacks. You're not shooting yourselves in the foot. So those are the two things for me. Trevor Sikkema said it. Got to get 6. Hashtag got to get 6. And hashtag get the hell off the field on third down.
Yeah.
I mean, Ren, we were talking about that since last preseason of the Bucs just couldn't finish. And they've got to finish. But I mean, Gene, to your point, if I can look in the crystal ball and ask why not, while I may not personally agree with this, I think what you would hear a lot of people say is they'd start pointing the finger at the coaching staff. They'd start pointing their finger at the front office. And I think all that's bunk, to be honest with you.
That's the same coaching staff and administration that gave you a winning product in 2016.
Exactly. And probably could have been even better than that. Now listen, winning product in 2016, 9-7. Let's be realistic. That's not lighting the world on fire at 9-7. But it's a whole lot better than what we experienced last year. It's a lot better than what we've experienced in years before. But Gene, last year I came out of free agency and I came into the thing saying, I think the Bucs are going to win the Super Bowl. I said that. So I'm going to be a little gun shy.
That's very true.
I did.
I can verify that.
I am going to be a little gun shy in going ahead and saying that. But I did say this at some point, and I'm going to stick by it. The Bucs were not as close last year as we all thought they were. I think they are a lot closer than what we think they are now.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And can I jump in just real quick? With all the injuries that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers suffered last year, you had a lot of players that stepped up and played that have experience that they wouldn't have gotten had a player not been healthy. So I think it worked out to give players a little bit more experience. I think that it just helps the whole roster this year. And you're right. Again, that just kind of adds to what I'm talking about. And I'll let you go ahead and finish your point.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was really it. I think that, I think the Bucs are closer. They're probably closer than what even us, those, you and me and Ren and the guys who really follow this team, we talk about it and we go through the process of doing podcasts and stuff about it. They're probably closer than what we even realize. I'll tell you the thing though, as we I know we're bumping up against your time here, Gene, but when we look at free agency, we talk a lot about who we're bringing in. One thing that I'm fairly interested in right now are the free agents that the Buccaneers had who we have not re-signed yet. And specifically, I'm talking about Kevin Pamphile and Evan Smith. Those two guys popped to the top of my brain. And it's not so much Evan Smith. I thought he'd be gone. I really kind of thought we'd be re-signing Kevin Pamphile and bringing him back. I don't know.
He's a really interesting story too. Late round pick.
It is. And he's a guy who the last bunch of years we've loved his flexibility and how he's been able to move, and he got himself into a starting gig, and we're all still scratching our heads over what the hell happened last year at that spot. But Evan Smith is gone. That's fine. I thought Kevin played fairly well towards the end when he was actually able just to stay in. If they don't get Jensen, and what are we going to do with Sweezy? Are we going to I personally, if it's me, I think I'd almost rather have Sweezy or Pamphile over Sweezy.
I would too. Me. I mean, better the devil you know than the devil you don't.
Yeah,
I mean, it better having Pamphile.
Yeah, so Sweezy. I mean, I know we still have him under contract, but Ren, you floated the idea earlier of letting him go and adding another $5 million to cap space. Let's give Pamphile $5 million and let Sweezy go.
Yeah, he's a lot younger.
Yeah, and he can still bend. He still has the flexibility.
Yeah.
It's like we sort of talked about. Like it's still ever evolving. It's fun to talk about. It's great to talk about. I just want to sort of bounce off something Gene said earlier about those guys that got experience last year that because due to injury. I think some of them I like a lot, and some of them I don't want back, to be honest. And that's because I need for improvement along that defensive line. And nothing against them personally, but like the Ryan Russells and the Will Clarks, like I don't want them making the 53-man roster. Those are, but the guys you were talking about, such as like the Ryan Smiths, the Kendall Beckwith, the Caleb Benenox, those guys, Leonard Westers, those guys that got real valuable playing time is going to help down the road. Chris Godwin. I mean, I think, everyone.
You think he'll make it?
Yeah, you think he's gonna make? You think? I mean, everyone has that. Everyone has that guy slotted in opposite Mike Evans a year from today.
Yeah,
I could potentially see that. I mean, just the way he's played, the way he came into the league as a rookie, playing with such preparedness. I mean, it's just amazing, and it was poetic to me to see him get that walk-off touchdown. Yeah. And at the end of that Saints game, at the end of the season, I mean, that was beautiful.
Yeah, Jameis being Jameis, man.
That's exactly. And to anybody that tells me the Bucs are not gonna win, or they're gonna have a losing season, I always look at Jameis Winston. I don't care what game it is, as long as Jameis Winston's on the field, there's a chance to win. I mean, that guy is gonna play until the last whistle.
Yeah. And with that, I mean, you look at that, that's Jameis Winston, right? And along with that, there's going to come a couple of interceptions here and there, and we saw his interception number come down last year. You got to take the good with the bad. I want a quarterback who's going to take some risks. I want a quarterback who's going to get out there and maybe do something that the coach didn't necessarily dial up because he saw it when he was out there. And sometimes it's going to work, sometimes it's not, and I'm okay with that. Let's let Jameis be Jameis.
Yeah, there you go. You can't go wrong. Well, guys, it's just hard to believe, and I want to let you both know you have an open invitation. If you guys are bored on a Wednesday night and you're like, hey, I want to come on the show, you guys are welcome. Just like I told the Pewter Plank last week, those guys, you guys are welcome. I respect your content. I respect your football knowledge, and it's just been fun having you on the show. And again, folks, if you haven't checked these guys out, please check them out. The content is excellent, and I can't say anything bad about it. It's just great stuff. So I'm gonna start with you, Ren, and then we'll work our way down to Brent. Tell everybody how they can get a hold of you and anything you're working on. I don't know if you do any blogs or anything like that, or tell everybody what they can expect on the podcast for you guys.
Sure. Should we announce about our big day coming on Friday?
Sure, go ahead, man. Do it.
You announce it, and I'll follow you. You know what's going on more than I do. But just breaking news, Bucs fans.
Breaking news.
Get ready to be jealous. Get ready to be jealous.
We did a little fun episode last year called One Short Day at One Buc Place, where I got the privilege of hanging out with the media guys and kind of taking people inside the bowels of One Buc Place and tell them about my day. Well, I get to do it again, only on a whole different deal. And Ren's coming with me this time. We are both going to be hanging out at One Buc Place on Friday. We're getting a behind the scenes tour, and we'll be seeing what all that looks like. And Ren and I will be we'll be recording a show. Right now, it looks like we might be sitting in the parking lot, Ren. Okay. I'm trying to get us a place, but we'll be doing a show from One Buc about what that whole thing has been like. This is our off-season tour. When we go in the season, we're doing 3 shows a week, 4. Which is a lot. We're now here in the off season, so we spread them out. It's if anybody takes a look, they say, well, these guys haven't posted anything in a while.
You guys made me exhausted just hearing that.
Right. During the season we go 3 weeks. So we're kind of doing what we call our off-season tour. And so this week we're stopping by One Buc Place. And while we're there, because nothing is confirmed right now, I'm not going to say out loud, but we're hoping to catch a couple of interviews while we're there as well, which should be fun. And we'll release those kind of throughout the summer if those happen. But we have that, but we'll also, Ren and I don't know, we kind of play the off-season a little more loosey. Yeah. So, we'll do something for the draft. I'm not really sure what we'll do, if we'll do it during the draft like we did last year or not. I don't know. We'll find out. You know, but there'll be lots of stuff coming up. You know, certainly as we go through the season, we get into training camp and all that kind of stuff. Things that are opened up to us. We'll, you know,
I'm planning on doing Ren's Diaries again this year.
It was a great show. Ren would just, I mean, he, you know, did live from training camp every day, which was great. And so yeah, lots of fun stuff happening at the PewterCast. And you guys can listen if you want to follow it, you want to get in there, you can subscribe. We're on iTunes, Podcast Addict, Podbean, you know, all the podcatchers out there. We actually have a YouTube channel, which is not as cool as Gene's show here. Ours is just a logo, and you got to listen to us.
Not even close.
Yeah,
guys, and you know what, folks, stay tuned. We got some really big things coming up in the future, so definitely stay tuned for that, guys. You guys do an award show at the end of the season.
Yeah, that was fun.
I really want.
Oh,
I really
that's
need
something. That's a part of. We're going to be able to give out some awards while we're at $1 on Friday. So
I need to be involved in that next year. At the end of the season.
Are you shooting for Fisher's title?
I know. I just want to be a part of it. I want my vote to count. I want to be able to say something.
Well, did you?
Oh, you want to be?
Yeah, I voted. I voted, but I want to be a part of the.
You want to
with the inside track, you know.
Oh, you want to like come on when we give out the awards next year? You want to jump on with us and
yes.
Okay,
that would mean a lot. I can kick that off my bucket list.
Yeah,
Ren, we're already booking guests for 2019. I like it.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll go ahead and give my information real quick to finish off on that. If you can't tell, I'm very excited about Friday. Maybe you know what I'm really hoping, everybody out there, Brent, Gene, and whoever else is still listening to us and will be listening or watching us, that there's a press conference with draft choices, or excuse me, free agent signings the day we go. Like that would be the be all end all for me.
Awesome.
I'm super excited about this. I can't wait to share it with you guys and get it out there. But once again, anytime you want to talk Bucs football, if you're embarrassed about the question or you're saying something nasty about somebody, feel free to DM me. Find me on Twitter at RenDax, REN_DAXT. I'm always down to talk Buccaneers football.
There we go. And folks, the chat room was just blowing up tonight. I was pretty excited. I mean, we had over 30 people listening at one point, and I know people get bored. They're probably tired of listening to us, but thank you everybody who is checking us out. Again, these guys at PewterCast, they do a great job. I love the content, and again, they have an open invitation, just like Pewter Plank. They have an open invitation to come on Buc What You Heard at any time. I appreciate that. Michael Pless, you were missed. It would have been fun, but
I was so looking forward to talking to him again.
Yeah, enjoy that tequila, my friend. Enjoy that tequila in your undisclosed location. I'm not going to tell anybody where you're at, but enjoy yourself. And folks, and guys, I will have Buc What You Heard T-shirts are actually being printed out. So get at me, DM me on Twitter. Or hit me up on buckwhatyouheard@gmail.com and let me know what size you want, and I will get you some prices on those. But anyway, that's it for us tonight. And I want to thank everybody that hung around to talk Bucs football. And again, there's nothing wrong with rooting for the team, this Bucs team, the way you do. Okay, I respect your opinion, and you won't ever hear me disrespect anybody because they're not happy with the way the Bucs are doing something. Until the Bucs can start winning and put a winning product on the field, you're not wrong for wanting to, kind of question what the Bucs do. And again, you're always welcome to, hit me up on Twitter. As I mentioned before, you can reach me at Super Heavyweight. If you're following me, I'll follow you back. And, that's pretty much it for us tonight. And, again, hit that like button on YouTube. They pretty much demonetized me. That's why you saw me drinking beer here tonight, because I really don't care. I can say whatever I want to. But anyway, that's pretty much it for us. And thank you guys again for showing up. And everybody have a good night. And enjoy the off season. Don't get too stressed out about it. Enjoy the off season. Let's see what happens. Go Bucs. Talk to you later.